Hi guys, this is Tablet-News.com and I'm here with the Motorola Nexus 6. As you probably know, you already seen the unboxing that we did for this famous phablet that was announced in October and launched in November. This one is actually the first Nexus phablet. It's a 6-inch device and also it's the first Motorola made Nexus device. It's priced at $649 in USA, and once again let's have a look at its back and its surroundings. So the Motorola Nexus 6 launched in November and arrived here at Tablet-News.com for a full review. It's the first Motorola Nexus and also an important premiere for us, the first Lollipop device we've tested. The design involves a thickness of 10.1 millimeters and a weight of 184 grams. This is a very big and massive phone. It's also very bulky, even for a person with big hands, a person who loves big devices. This one may feel a bit exaggerated. It's even big for a person who loves the Galaxy Note 4 and the iPhone 6 Plus, and even when placed near them, it seems like a giant. We have an exposed aluminum frame on the side, right here and right here, going all the way to the top. And we also have a great build quality. The handset feels pretty solid, but the build quality is not as good as the one of the Motorola Droid Turbo, if you ask me. This handset is solid, as I said. It feels resilient enough to withstand a drop. Of course, I wouldn't advise it. And I would have to say that the face is covered completely in Gorilla Glass 3. The back is made of plastic. And the logos here, this one is engraved in metal if I'm not mistaken, and this one is the Motorola one, it's probably engraved just in plastic. We got a curved profile, as you can well see. It's looking sexy, this curved profile, and this model is slightly water resistant. It's not fully water resistant, it's what people call splash resistant, so if you get caught in the rain you should be okay, but don't take in the shower with you. This model is actually thicker in the middle part and thinner at the edges in order to fit your palm better, and it actually does. It comes in white or in the dark blue version that we've got right here. I would say that its bezel is reasonably thin considering the size, and we also have rounded corners here. Just a quick mention, the Galaxy Note 4 176 grams in weight, Nexus 6 184 grams, so it's about 8 grams of difference between the two. At the front we've got right here dual speakers, so speaker here and speaker here. These are the dual speakers. We got a front camera here, we got the usual bunch of sensors, and from what I know there is a notification LED inside the speaker, but it can only work when the device is rooted, from what I've heard again. At the back we have the main camera with two LED flashes and a plastic ring around them in order to amplify them maybe, and there is also a small hole here, probably for a microphone or something like that. Once again, Nexus printed in metal, and there is a very small hole here that I associate to a microphone. At the top we've got the audio jack and also the nano SIM tray that you can open up with a small metal key in the box of the device. At the bottom we find the micro USB port. Right here on the left side absolutely nothing, and on the right side we've got the very thin on-off button that has a bunch of lines on it to make it more grippy, and the volume button. So on-off button and volume buttons incredibly thin and incredibly hard to press if you're just feeling the side. Of course you'll feel them, but they're so thin you may miss them, especially the on-off one. So overall this model is big. It's bulky, even for a person who likes big phones. I would say it's too much. The construction quality is below the Motorola Droid Turbo. I would even say it's a little bit below the iPhone 6 Plus, and the proportioning is not exactly my favorite. If you're a previous Nexus owner, this model may be a shock for you, so that's all you have to say about the design. Now let's move on to the hardware. We're dealing here with a 5.96 inch screen. The resolution is 2560 over 1440. It's a Quad HD screen. It's an AMOLED display with a pixel density of 493 ppi. Inside the phone you will find the quad-core Qualcomm Snapdragon processor. This one is a Qualcomm Snapdragon 805, clocked at 2.7 GHz, and we've got Krite 450 cores. The GPU is an Adreno 420, and the model comes in 32 or 64 GB of storage versions, and there is no micro SD card slot to use here. The RAM is 3 GB. We also have a back camera of 13 megapixel resolution with optical image stabilization and dual LED flash. Up front, 2 megapixel shooter for selfies, and on the connectivity side we're getting HSDPA LTE Category 6, which means we can go as high as 300 mega per second in downloads. We also get Wi-Fi, A, B, G, and AC, Bluetooth 4.1, GPS, GLONASS, there's micro USB 2.0 in the mix with slim port, Wi-Fi dual band, Wi-Fi direct, DLNA, NFC, and in the section I like to call others, we got an accelerometer. We obviously also have a gyroscope, proximity sensor, compass, barometer, stereo speakers, and important one, QI wireless charging. As far as the battery is concerned, it's a 3220 mAh unit, lithium polymer. On paper it provides 330 hours of standby or 24 hours of talk time. Just a quick reminder, the Galaxy Note 4 also 3220 mAh, just to remind you of that. We also have screenshots of the battery, we've tested it obviously, here we go. So I have to say that our usual test involves HD video playback in a loop with Wi-Fi on and brightness at 50%. We achieve 8 hours and a half, as you can see right here, 8 hours and a half with Wi-Fi on and brightness at 50%, which is exactly the value achieved by the Galaxy Note 4. I would say we're doing fine by Android standards and by Quad HD standards. Meanwhile, the iPhone 6 Plus, 12 hours. And with average use, you should be able to reach 1 day and a half or maybe even squeeze out 2 days out of this model. Frankly speaking, for such a huge device, I expected just a little bit more, maybe 10 hours, but not 8 hours and a half. I keep reminding myself of the Nokia Lumia 1520 and its incredible 17 hours from last year. The charging is fast in the meantime, so kudos for the charging, Motorola. We have Motorola saying that with 15 minutes of charge you can achieve 6 hours of usage. They're right, and this handset will load from 0% to 100% in 1 hour and 50 minutes, so that's a fast charger. Meanwhile, the Galaxy Note 4 can charge even faster, 1 hour and 40 minutes, so it can be done faster. The charger of this model, the black one that comes in the box, has 3 types of charging written on it. Their standard 5 volts and 1.6 amperes, Turbo 1 9 volts 1.6 amperes, and Turbo 2 12 volts or 1.2 amperes. I have to mention that while charging at such high rates, the device gets very hot, and I do mean very hot. It surpasses 43 degrees Celsius, which is not exactly okay in my book and may harm it somehow or not. Keep that in mind, the device tends to overheat while charging in turbo mode. Now let's see the settings related to the battery and such things. First of all, I have to mention that you shouldn't expect much from these settings. This is the graph. It's a pretty limited graph if you ask me. It's showing you the consumption of the device, what exactly used it, and the time employed by those activities. Once again, simple graph. And let's see what other options we have here. We have a battery saver feature. You turn it on and you can set it to turn it on automatically. Or never turn it on. So the battery saver is able to reduce your device's performance, limit vibration, ambient display, and most background data. So that's about it. Okay, one important aspect, in the status bar here you will never see the battery percentage. There's no option for that. Sadly, I was used to that, but on the Nexus 6 no longer. Other than that, let's draw some conclusions about the battery. I would say that the fast charging is welcome, but the battery life of 8 hours and 30 minutes is not exactly impressive in my book, in spite of being on par with the Galaxy Note 4. Now we move over to the acoustics, and we see here we got 2 front speakers. Obviously, these 2 front speakers come with great expectations. We have no bundled headphones, just like the Nexus 5, and let's actually play some music. For that I'm going to use Play Music, the stock Google application for music playback. As you can see, we got material design here, and let's listen to a tune or two. So here we go. And now some conclusions. I have to say that the sound is crisp, clear, All notes are well heard. We got a very good bass, and I do mean that, very good bass, deep and warm sound, but the volume isn't exactly as high as one would expect. It's pretty high, but not huge. Now, there are also some settings to play with, and those include the genre, and by genre I mean an equalizer with such options. This is it. It's basically the same settings as before, but with material design. We have these 5 channels to customize. We have a surround sound option that is actually felt when using headphones. Of course, we don't have ones bundled. And as I said, genres here to customize using a few presets. Okay, so that's about it. Those are all the options you can play with. Of course, you can stream songs from the cloud or rely on those you have on your device, copy it via USB or God knows where else. Once again, reasonably loud, crisp, clear, very good bass, deep sound, warm sound. And we also tested these speakers with a decibel meter, fear not. We achieved a pretty low value for some reason, 79.2 decibels. It's a bit disappointing, but only on paper. In real life, I feel that the speakers are actually doing a good job. Meanwhile, an iPhone 6 Plus achieves 83 decibels, Galaxy Note 4 89 decibels, so there's 10 decibels between the Nexus 6 and the Note 4, which is a pretty big difference. Personally, I feel this model is above the iPhone 6 Plus as far as the acoustics are concerned. I've seen a lot of reviews out there complaining about the way headphones are handled by this model and about cross-talking and stuff like that. I put in a pair of earphones of those offered by Apple with the iPhones, and I have to say I'm not complaining at all. I find them to be perfect, so no complaints from me as far as the headphones are concerned. Now we move on to the video aspect. This one is a 5.96 inch screen, AMOLED, Quad HD, and I'm going to have to resort to a player I installed, MX Player, because the device doesn't have a video player. You're supposed to use Photos, the app you use to actually view your photos, to play your videos. So once again, I'm using MX Player, not stock, but who knows, maybe someday. So here we go. This is a standard video we use in all of the reviews, and that's the image we play. The codecs that the standard Photos player supports, by the way, are H.263, H.264 AVC, MPEG-4, and VP8. Now, as far as the experience is concerned, there is a slight bit of oversaturation going on here. The screen is reasonably bright, but far from the Samsung AMOLEDs. The blacks are deep, the contrast is okay, we got wide viewing angles. But once again, oversaturation may be a problem. And once again, it could be brighter and doesn't exactly feel like a Quad HD. I've said that for the LG G3, I've said that for the Galaxy Note 4, I'll say it again, it doesn't exactly feel like a jump from Full HD to Quad HD. The pixels of this display are of the pentile matrix kind. You don't have to believe me. Let's go to our test involving a microscope, also involving a lux meter. So we should have them here somewhere. Here we go. Once again, the pixels of the device under the microscope, and this one is the pentile matrix I was talking about. And next up, there's the lux meter, and it should be here somewhere. Here we go. As you can see, quite low value compared to other flagships. We achieved 380 lux units on white, while the Galaxy Note 4 achieved 682 lux units, of course in full daylight, in a bright day, and using that special feature that allows you to go 5 notches or more up in the brightness area. The iPhone 6 Plus achieves 623 lux units, so that one also beats us by quite a margin. The screen is overall below the one of the Galaxy Note 4, however not very much below the iPhone 6 Plus, keep that in mind. We also have some special settings for the display. This is it, display. We got the brightness level here. We got something called adaptive brightness. This one will optimize the brightness level for available light. We got the obvious wallpaper, sleep, daydream, ambient display. This one wakes the screen up when the device is picked up or notifications arrive. Then we have font size and rotate contents on the screen. This one, ambient display, works like this. Screen is off, phone is on the table, you pick it up and it activates like this. Should work in theory, so let's put it back again. I guess I'm going to have to actually have some notifications in order to see it. So anyway, you get the idea. So let's try it just one more time. Usually when I leave it alone for a while and then I pick it up, it shows me what's on the screen. So let's try again. That's what I was talking about. It also shows that in a more dim light in order to consume less power. You saw I didn't get it from the first try, but I actually got it at some point. Overall the screen is good, but it's no champion. It's oversaturated. It's not so bright as compared to the Galaxy Note 4 or the iPhone 6 Plus. So Motorola and Google can do a bit better maybe next time. As far as the camera is concerned, an interesting camera here. 13 megapixel shooter with optical image stabilization and a flash ring that honestly to me it feels kind of cheap. This plastic ring here could actually lack and would be happier. So 30 megapixel camera, dual LED flash, optical image stabilization, f2.0 aperture. Nexus 5 had the f2.4 aperture, so f2.0 is an evolution, it's an upgrade, and the sensor is a Sony IMX214. It's used on the OnePlus One among other models, and it's a 4:3 aspect ratio sensor. Okay, now it's time to check out the user interface. And here we go, activating the camera, picking up our usual castle. It's a stock interface that's very minimalistic, and I do mean very, hugely minimalistic even. However, the options are very well organized, the bitrate is okay. So let's see what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with fast focus. However, the capture is quite slow, I have to say that. I was expecting a much faster capture, and I would even go out and say that the iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus are eons faster than this model. So sorry for all of you Nexus fans, the capture isn't fast, it's rather slow. However, at least the focus is fast. If you swipe from the left side, you'll see a bunch of photo taking options. We got photosphere, panorama, lens blur, camera and video, plus the settings here. Lens blur, in case you're wondering, well, this one was launched months ago as a feature from the Google Camera app. It creates a depth of field effect and allows you to refocus after you're taking a shot. So if I select it and go back to one of my previous shots, it can allow me to refocus on the keyboard or on the screen, and also select the level of blur that I will apply. Focus on the screen, which means blurring the keyboard. Focus on the keyboard, blur the background. We have another picture that allows us to do that, and there is a lot of scrolling to do, and hopefully we won't enter Google now. Okay, let's go back and start scrolling again. There's got to be a faster way to do this. Anyway, should be there any minute now. A lot of pictures, by the way. And here we go. This is yet another refocus shot. You can focus on the dog or on the background. And that's what lens blur is all about. It's simply taken by capturing a photo of your subject and then slightly lifting the phone a few millimeters above, and that's that. So once again, photosphere, panorama, lens blur, camera and video. We got the settings right here, and they include resolution and quality. We got back camera photos, 13 megapixels 4:3, 5 megapixels 4:3, or 3.1 megapixels in 4:3. You go to 16:9 aspect ratio in 9.7 megapixels and a few other sizes. We got front camera resolution and video resolution. It's HD, Full HD or 4K. We got photosphere and panorama options, high, normal or raw. The low one is the fastest. And finally, lens blur, normal or low, again the fastest one. Those are the options you can play with. You can save location. We have manual exposure or auto exposure depending on your preference. If you leave it on, you'll notice something here. And let's go to the camera again. There is another selection of settings here. So if I left the manual exposure option on, you'll see this option here. And shouldn't have exited the camera. Once again on this side, we got the front camera shortcut, flash options, HDR plus, activated or not, and with a bit of lag as you can see, grid lines, and also the timer, including 3 seconds, 10 seconds, or none at all. So these are all the options you can play with in this camera's interface. As I said, quite limited if you ask me. So now let's actually mess with the subject in front of us. Let's zoom in. Pretty interesting zoom mechanism, and I mean graphically. and as you can see, the quality is not lost when zooming in, and that will also be felt in the pictures area. Fast to focus, not so fast to take pictures, and the quality, as you can see, is flawless, nothing to object here, very good level of detail. Without using a flash, we don't need one, the source of light is okay. Okay, we're done with the castle, we're putting it aside, and now it's time to enter the gallery and view those hundreds of pictures we've taken in full daylight in order to assess the camera properly. So let's go back, press camera, and we have a huge amount of pics. I'm going to start with the panorama. I have to say first that this one didn't feel like a Nexus camera, which is a plus. Previously, after testing the Galaxy Nexus, Nexus 4, Nexus 5 and Nexus S, I didn't like either one of them. I was disappointed by each generation till this one came along. So this is the panorama. It can be seen like this, like a circular panorama. It's well stitched, pretty detailed, but the level of resolution is not exactly impressive. It's just a bit over 10 megapixels, while other phones are able to easily achieve, let's say, even 50 or 60 megapixels, so that's not exactly impressive. Okay, at least it looks good. Moving further, you can see a lot of 4:3 shots, and now there is a test of zoom. So I have this subject here, I'm zooming in, or I can zoom in while taking photos, and this is close to the maximum level of zoom, and still the noise is very much reduced, which is quite impressive. Once again, the shots were taken on a cloudy day, the focus is good, and so are the white balance and exposure. And then we go under the bridge for some shots with and without the flash. So this shot is taken with a flash, this one without it. You can see that the flash is discreet and does a fine job at lighting up the scenery. And then we should be able to find some nifty macros here. The colors are reasonable, I would say. The colors are a bit cold, if you ask me. At least they're not oversaturated. We have macros of a dog with raindrops on his face. These one are actually pretty good macros. This one is the refocus shot from before. And once again, cold colors on a cloudy day. And once again, happy that they're not oversaturated. By the way, if you check out the details for these shots, you'll see that the focal length is about 3.82 millimeters. And now we come to a series of totally eye-breaking macros. These ones are actually very good. It's all thanks to the ability to focus of this camera, so it can take breathtaking macros, that's for sure. One thing I notice here, the camera is clearly above the one of the Nexus 5 and above the one of the Sony Xperia Z3. However, it's below the one of the Xperia Z2, Galaxy Note 4 and even the iPhone 6 Plus. It can be considered the equal or a bit above the camera of the iPhone 6. I would say above because the level of detail is much more impressive than the one of the iPhone 6. Those are daytime shots. A few more colorful shots again. Level of detail here very good. A few more macros. And then we should be able to proceed to the nighttime shots. We have a lot of them as well. And here we go. Photos taken during the night time at about 9 PM or so. This model handles very well the colors, as you can see. Nice colors at night, but when it comes to light sources, there is a bit of a problem. I've seen a lot of phones having problems with light sources in front of them. This is one of them. Meanwhile, the iPhones don't have that problem. It also has problems with cards in motion. Some handsets have the shutter fast enough to capture cards in motions. Samsung ones, for example, this one doesn't. I would also have to say that the shots are pretty bright for nighttime scenery, so that's a compliment. The level of details is pretty good again, just like during the day. There is no yellowish hue like it happened on some other phones. It's not exactly iPhone 6 Plus level, but still it's a pretty good nighttime camera. I would compare it to the LG G3 if you really want a comparison of the nighttime shots. Now, as far as the videos are concerned, I'm going to start off with image stabilization, and for that I'm literally going to walk you through a walkthrough. So climbing a pair of stairs, a set of stairs. I also did that with the iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6 Plus. The 6 Plus was stunning, The 6 was a surprise because it only had electronic stabilization, and this one is a bit of a letdown. The stabilization is okay, but not exactly impressive. It's about on the same level as the one of the Galaxy Note 4, but totally not on the level of the iPhone 6 Plus and its crazy good stabilization. And now let's see some other videos that we got here. So that one was the stabilization video. We also have a 4K video filmed next to a lake. Here we go. The continuous autofocus is a bit exaggerated. The scenery is crisp, the image is clear, we have good white balance and exposure, and good colors. Notice how the white balance and exposure are being set up. And you just saw the focus flinching a bit. The continuous autofocus is a bit over enthusiastic. And let's go to a full HD video this time. So this one was 4K. Now we move towards a full HD one. And this one is taken here. The purpose of this video is to demonstrate the quality when zooming in and the fact that you will not lose details even if you zoom in using this camera, which is pretty impressive. The level of noise is much smaller than anticipated, so that's good. Once again, slight focus loss, so that's a problem. Would be nice if you can disable the continuous autofocus. As far as I know, you can't. Now let's go to some more colorful video captures like this one. Good colors. This one actually has 3 times when it loses focus, which is not okay. Other stuff worth mentioning is that the sound capture here is mono. I'm not exactly impressed by the audio. We have a good bitrate though, 17 MB per second in 1080p. There's no 60 frames per second, by the way. In 4K we reach as high as 42 MB per second bitrate. The files are MP4, and now we skip straight to the nighttime video capture. Sample number 1 at night. There's a lot of noise going on here, but the colors are pretty much okay. And then we've got sample number 2, where we also test the zoom quality. Pretty good colors yet again, even at night. The image is crisp, a bit of a focus problem yet again, and now you'll see the zoom in very impressive and full action. Here we go. Usually when you're a few meters away from a stage and you zoom in, you can see only blurred people dancing. This is the maximum level of zoom, and still you could see the people clearly, which is impressive in my book. Finally, one last clip. This one is supposed to be 4K, but probably because of the cold it totally lost focus, but kept white balance and exposure, so there's that. Now let's draw some conclusions. The camera is overall below the Galaxy Note 4 and iPhone 6 Plus. It's above the Sony Xperia Z3 and the BlackBerry Passport, for example. I only mentioned it because it has a 30 megapixel camera with optical image stabilization. It can be considered the camera of the Nexus 6, either the equal or above the iPhone 6. I would go for the second because the level of detail is better. Its age is better than the Nexus 5. For me, the Nexus 5 and Nexus 4 were camera disappointments, and the Nexus 6 is finally a good camera. I like very much the colors, the quality when zooming in, the very good macros, and the good nighttime capture. However, focus problems and slow picture taking are a bit of a letdown. Also, optical image stabilization is not that impressive. If you want to do a bit of photo editing, you should have the options here, and pressing this button here, we got a ton of options to play with. We got auto, crop, rotate, looks, tune image, with sub options for each of them: details, vintage, drama, black and white, HDR, scape, retro, lux, center focus, tilt shift, and frames, selective, details, a ton of stuff that you can apply and play with to edit your pics. And now we're done with the camera. It's time to address the performance, and let me start off with the temperature. So in order to assess the temperature, let's access this area. And check out this thermometer here. It shows 34 degrees Celsius after playing the game Riptide GP2 for 15 minutes. The device remains pretty cold even when playing games, however it gets a bit overheated when charging, passing even 43 degrees Celsius. I did say that when you play Riptide GP2 you don't get overheated, it only gets to 34 degrees, well it's 34 degrees right now, and after playing Game of Thrones for about 30 minutes I did achieve more than 40 degrees, so sometimes it gets overheated, sometimes not, depends on the game mostly. Now let's check out the web browser of the device, and in this case it's Chrome. So here we go, and now I'm going to load Tablet-News.com. As you can see, the browser is very fast and the screen makes the text look very crisp. Pinch to zoom works fine, scrolling is also fine, and this is the landscape view of our website. Now as far as the input is concerned, the new and improved keyboard from Android 5.0 is better spaced, there are no more lines among the keys, it's totally minimalistic and comfy, and once again well spaced. So we're done with the keyboard, we're done with the browsing, very good browser, and by the way you can actually see the tabs from your browser in this multitasking area, and boy do we have a lot of windows open or what. Okay, going further, this is the phone area, and as far as actual phoning is concerned, we have a redesigned dialer, we have a solid signal and solid call quality, plus more flashy animations available here, a bunch of settings and options. There's also speed dial, obviously, call history, import, export, new contact, settings, call settings, voicemail, general settings and all that. Once again, good signal, good call quality. However, the voice isolation in the case of noise is not as good as on the iPhones. Now, as far as the benchmarks are concerned, I decided to compare the Nexus 6 to the Galaxy Note 4, the iPhone 6 Plus and the LG G3. Okay, so in order to do that, I'm going to access the screenshots area and let's have a go. This is Quadrant, where we scored 13,691 points. The Galaxy Note 4 scores double that amount, it reaches 26,000. The iPhone 6 Plus doesn't run this benchmark, and the LG G3 scores 22,000 points. In Antutu, we had a huge score. The score is 50,243. The Note 4 was very close with 50,158, while the iPhone 6 Plus reached 48,000. Meanwhile, the LG G3 reaches 35,637. In Nano Mark II, 59.4 frames per second, while the Note 4 has 59.7, the iPhone 6 Plus doesn't run it, and the LG G3 59.9. We proceed to Velamo. Here we go. A huge score here in the HTML5 test. We have 3677, while the Galaxy Note 4 had an even better score, 4431, and the LG G3 2417. Multi-core test in Velamo also good, and finally the metal one, very impressive. Next up, iStorm Unlimited 3D Mark 23,725. This one is better than the one of the Note 4 that unexplainably hit 12,812. Meanwhile, the iPhone 6 Plus was stuck at 17,000 and LG G3 16,000, so I would say we're doing fine. In the Geekbench 3 test, we have 1077 in the single core test and 3339 in the multi-core one, while the Note 4 had 884 and 3405. The iPhone 6 Plus 1629 and 2922, while the LG G3 960 and 2333. In the GFX test, in the T-Rex off-screen 1080p test, we have 33.5 frames per second, better than the Note 4 that had 21, worse than the iPhone 6 Plus that had 44.8, but better than the LG G3 that had 27.3. In the speed test, we scored 22 mega per second in download and 24 in upload, while the Galaxy Note 4 had 20 and 22, iPhone 6 Plus 24 and 20, and finally the LG G3 had 20 and 21, so I would say we're doing fine. In Browser Mark, a pretty low score, or should I say a pretty decent score, considering that most models don't even reach that nowadays, 1363, and the Note 4 has 2594, huge. iPhone 6 Plus doesn't run this, and LG G3 1187, so once again doing fine. SunSpider, the lower the better in the case of SunSpider, 827 here, not very good. Note 4 had 875, iPhone 6 Plus 363, and the LG G3 652. Overall, this model is able to win 3 out of the 10 battles. However, the scores are pretty good. It can obviously run any game out there, any 3D game with any requirements. And now we have reached that section of the review that's totally dedicated to Android 5.0 Lollipop. Initially, it was unveiled as Android L. It was in prototype phase, and then it came to fruition this fall with the beautiful material design. Some people would argue that it's overcomplicated, the animations are too flashy, or simply the fact that they don't like these Android buttons here. It's a colorful OS with flashy animations, it has realistic lighting and shadows, it's more responsive, and it has very vivid new colors. There are also new updated stock apps for it, there is new typography, new effects and new icons. Among the novelty, we find notifications. You can answer notifications from the lock screen now, so if I tap this, I can answer if it was an email. I could have answered it straight from the get-go. You can also hide sensitive content from your notifications, so people who see your smartphone on the table in the meeting don't see what you're being notified about. You can also push the volume buttons to trigger something called priority, and you can select priority interruptions for events and reminders, calls, and we can give permissions to certain people to bother you during those times. So priority is basically an evolved do not disturb feature with a very nice interface and very comfy setup. You can also set it up for 1 hour or set it up intermittently for a couple of days every once in a while. Or you can set it off and go to another mode like all or none. People actually regret the lack of a silent options on this model. We don't have a silent option, but we have an equivalent. Okay, so that's about it. The idea is that you can get incoming phone calls that will not interrupt a movie or game now. You will be asked if you want to answer now or later. This is another feature from Android 5.0 Lollipop. So once again, if you're in a game or a movie and you get a call, you can choose to answer or keep doing what you are doing. There are also app notifications and you can choose the priority of those. And let's check that out. So if I go to apps, select this app here, and well, not exactly here, Sunday notifications. We have app notifications. I select the app and I can block it or check priority. So there's that. You can prioritize certain applications for their notifications. Now there's also an intelligent ranking of the notifications depending on their type. For example, a call will have priority against an app update, and also it will be intelligently prioritized for a certain contact that you call more often compared to one that you never call. The notifications will look like cards, as you can see right here, and they're also shown on the lock screen. What else? The battery has become more efficient in Android 5.0. The battery management is more efficient, and the estimated time to full charge is now shown when charging the device. And as far as the security is concerned, you get better encryption, new quick settings. This is the quick settings area that you can see right here. This time there's not a tab interface. You don't have separate notifications and separate quick settings. They're in this together, with the quick settings area being more aired out. As you can see, it's aired out, it's well spaced, it's not crowded anymore. Notifications are underneath here, and I have to say I like this organization a bit better. The icons are bigger, there are no edges, and you can add a guest if you want to. Add a guest, add a user, and by the way, you can keep using the same Wi-Fi if you change the guest, and from what I know, you can even take some phone calls on some other people's accounts, as far as I've heard. Everything is more comfy here, the toggles are bigger, easier to use. They're the usual Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, emergency calls, airplane, auto-rotate, flashlight, location, and cast screen. And we also have an improved internet connection, and Bluetooth Low Energy has also been improved with Android 5.0. I should also mention that Lollipop marks the change and the passage from the runtime. It changes from Dalvik to ART, which brings you up to 4 times the performance and also 64-bit support. It also brings you 5.1 and 7.1 audio surround and audio channel support, and USB audio support, which is basically allowing you to plug in USB microphones, speakers, amps, mixers, and other things like that. There is also OpenGLS 3.1, RAW format support for pictures, and you can say something like OK Google, which is a feature you already knew but has become even more accurate, precise, and all that. There are 15 new languages, and there's multiple device compatibility, so you'll get Android Lollipop on your TV, on your watch, on your car, on your phone, on your tablet, and the UI will feel right at home because it has been uniformized on these platforms. There's even support for 4K playback as far as I know. Now the battery saving feature that I showed you earlier is able to extend the battery by up to 90 minutes. Those were the facts, basically the changelog for the OS. Now I want to tell you my personal impressions. I would have to say that the interface takes a while to get used to. It's very flashy, and frankly speaking, the thing I don't like here is the list format. So the vertical lists have this effect at the top, the wave effect. I don't quite fancy it. I consider it to be too much, but some people love it. Also, many people do not like these Android buttons. They don't bother me, but some people are very bothered. Animations are more complex, everything is more colorful, everything is well spaced, and once again, if you open a few tabs during multitasking, new tab, Google, I have 2 tabs right now, I can see them here, tab 1, tab 2. Of course, that can be cancelled from the browser, so you can get rid of the problem. Some people prefer to see them in the multitasking, some people don't. This is a new and abstract Android with a complex 3D multitasking area. It's just for looks, the functionality is the same, so only looks, and that's about it. There's more depth here. I read an interesting article online that detailed the concept of depth. There are elements that are raised on top of other elements to make the interface seem more 3D. For example, let's say the calendar. You can see this plus button is raised above them to make the interface seem 3D. The same goes for Gmail, provided that I can find it here. Here we go, Gmail. This button here is raised above the other elements, making everything seem 3D. And Google Plus the same. The button is raised above elements to make everything seem 3D. So that's an interesting touch. With Android 5.0, everything feels bolder and colors are more dynamic, and the photos that you will see, as you just saw during the review, will fade in and out with a cool effect. There's transparency in the Android button area, even when doing something else like scrolling around or checking a web page, the transparency persists. I have to say I'm not liking the white background of the apps, it feels a bit antiquated. I also do not like the camera icon, it just doesn't feel Google enough, so to say. We got the usual Google Now home screen dedicated here. It already knows the football matches you want to see, the weather, your way to the airport, for example, or the restaurants near you, and forecast and all that, how much time it takes to go to work, some stocks, and some news that you may be interested in. Okay, and once again, notifications and quick settings have been merged. You can either take this 2-step approach, step 1 and step 2, or you can do the 2-finger swipe and see everything you need right here. Other than that, I have to say that it's time to check out the settings area, and I have to be frank, not much has changed here. Display, sound, notifications, storage, battery, apps, users, tap and pay, location, security, screen lock by swipe, pattern, pin or password, owner info, encryption, yes, encrypted, unknown sources installation, screen pinning and all that. So that's basically some of the options we got here. Once again, you can stay on the same Wi-Fi on different users. There is a 2-tone color setup at the top. So for example, if you're in the calendar app, not exactly the best example, let me try something else. So let's say you go to the input area here and you select the voice typing. You can see there is a 2-tone approach here. In blue there is a darker blue and a lighter blue, which basically defines many of the apps running on this device. 2-tone at the top, status bar and header with 2 colors. There are no fancy settings here. I can't exactly show you anything fancy in the settings area, so let me go to the pre-installed apps area on the Nexus 6. All of them are stock here. Obviously this is a Nexus phone. All the stock apps have material design changes, and you probably know them before you knew Android Lollipop. The calculator, even this one has been changed. The calendar has been totally changed. So we have the following views. We have the day view, we have the 5-day view, and we got the search, and finally the schedule. That's probably the most interesting part. There are some cool things here. So for example, if you have a dentist appointment, you'll see a dentist symbol. If you have a meal scheduled with someone, you'll see forks and knives. So that's kind of cute. And for example, if you have train to catch or a plane, it will show you that. It will also show you the appointment on the map. So a pretty complex calendar that has changed a bit. Other than that, we have contacts, we have docs available here. You probably know docs already, but can't hurt to play with it a bit more. And then we have downloads, Drive, Dropbox, Google Earth. You can give it a spin, works flawlessly and totally lag free, shows you pictures of touristical items in your area. You can spin the globe or tilt the device with a special control setup. We have email, we have Google Fit. That's only now starting up. It's in its early days. You can add activities, add your weight, do some settings, connect to your fitness devices, set up your units, activity detection, and gather info from all those fitness stuff that you like to buy. Then we got Gmail with its new and improved interface and this quick way to compose stuff. And I should also mention that Gmail now offers support for Exchange and other non-Gmail accounts. We got Google Plus with a change interface that's not exactly changed. This one was adopting the material design long before people knew of it. Very fluid vertical scrolling. And we also have the hamburger menu here. And as far as I can see, you don't have an area here. Usually you have an entire menu in that area. Okay, we go further and we go to Hangouts, Keep, Maps. Maps hasn't changed a lot. Maybe it looks more crisp, maybe it's because of the screen. The options are here as usual in this menu. We got Messenger that allows you to text people, for example, or send other communication. We got News and Weather. This one has totally changed. People usually ignore this application, but it has totally evolved if you ask me. Let's see a piece of news. Takes me to news.google.com. Other apps. Well, we got photos, play books, play games, play music, and play newsstand, and I'm totally blown away by the way Play Newsstand looks. I have a feeling that in the future of the Play Store, it will look something like this, with these very fluid animations at the top. So prepare, that's the future of the Play Store if you ask me. Play games, play music, play newsstand, play store. Newest version of the Play Store, you already know it. I frankly do not like the colors applied here at the top. The green is too dark. And then we got sheets. You can create an Excel sheet if you want to. As you can see right here, mess around with them. And then we got slides, also a very intuitive way to create a PowerPoint presentation. Next up, let's see what else we got. YouTube is the last one, and that's about it. Also with a new design, also with a two-tone approach, status bar and header. Everything is aired out, much less lines here, that effect when reaching the top of the scrolling list. And the menu here with stuff like history and things to watch later. Now we have arrived at the end of this review. This is the Motorola Nexus 6. We also did an analysis of Android 5.0 Lollipop, and now it's time for the verdict. We have the pros first and then the cons. On the pro side, we have a solid build for this phone. It charges pretty fast. It has crisp speakers here at the front, but only crisp, not very loud volume. I would say the display is good, but it's no champion. The camera is able to focus very fast. I would also have to say that this one has the best camera on a Nexus phone ever, and it's a totally giant leap from the Nexus 5. We have superb macros, good zoom quality, good colors, and finally the interface. Once you get used to it, it shows you that there is a simpler way to deal with interactions, simpler than iOS and even simpler than Windows Phone. The best thing I like here is the fact that we have notifications now together on the same screen with quick settings. So those are the pros, and on the con side, I expected a bit more from these speakers. I said they're crisp, but the volume could have been a bit louder, especially since there's two of them. The phone is huge, and huge even by Galaxy Note 4 standards, totally huge. The battery could be a bit better, I have to be honest. 8 hours and a half is no champion. The screen is oversaturated and not exactly very bright compared to the Galaxy Note 4 and iPhone 6 Plus. The optical image stabilization is not as impressive as on the iPhone 6 models. There are focus problems when filming, and I should probably mention that the UI takes time to get used to and not many people may like it. Finally, there is a bit of overheating when charging the phone. And now I'm going to give this device some of its grades. I'm going to give it an 8.9 out of 10 for design, 9.2 out of 10 for hardware, and finally 9.7 out of 10 for operating system and user interface, because it finally got to me. The final grade is 9.26 out of 10. This model is the best Nexus camera phone so far. It's not a camera phone, but I just said that to get you to know how good the camera is compared to the Nexus 4 and the Nexus 5. We have good performance, a very intuitive interface, and we have the best pure Android experience the money can buy right now on a big screen device. It's an excellent media usage device, and it's also a good gaming device and a tablet replacement. Well, the speakers, display and optical image stabilization are good, but they do not excel compared to the Galaxy Note 4 model or the iPhone 6 Plus. So 9.26 out of 10 for Tablet-News.com. Bye bye.